So I was on Twitter today, and I know many of you are going to ask, Kip, why are you on Twitter? Why are you still on Twitter? One, I don't actually know. Two, seeing the VTuber Not Safe for Work community interact with each other is actually some of the healthiest communication I have ever seen. Like Project Melody tweets, Fifi tweets, some of the other Not Safe for Work tubers. Actually healthy interaction, actually super cool interaction. I love seeing it happen, whether it's safe for work or not. So browsing Twitter today, and there was a thread. Obviously, I'm not going to name this individual because it's one, inconsequential, two. It in fact goes against the point that I'm trying to bring across. But the point effectively translated to, well, big creators, I don't interact with them because they don't want to interact with me. And, all big creators, why do none of them support smaller creators? And, it's not really fair. So I interact with smaller creators. It does come across as incredibly entitled. And this is actually something that I've actually kind of thought about, right? Okay, so why wouldn't a larger creator do things with smaller creators? So one, I think it comes down to workflow. And that's incredibly fair. At the end of the day, if you're doing YouTube and you're doing YouTube full time, think you're someone like Moist Critical, think you're someone like Shoe on Head, anybody that you can think of that does it full time, even Mr. Beast, right? They can't necessarily focus on things that aren't going to further their business model. And I think that's actually fair. I think that's incredibly fair. Imagine you're doing your job. Say you're working in retail, say you're working in customer service, say you're working in sanitation, say you're working in food prep, right? Whatever. And if your goal is, this is the project I need to do today so that way I can get to my other projects, but, you're stuck cleaning the bathrooms for a half hour because night shift didn't do it, someone else didn't do it, someone else called out today, right? Your job's going to get behind, and then unfortunately the way work works, you're going to get yelled at, right? It's a similar thing where it detracts from the focus of what you're doing. So I think that it becomes across as entitled because there's the expectation that larger creators are going to inherently just give you a win, give you the buy, so to speak, when it comes to gaming terms. And, there's been a lot of creators. We have factually creators like Charlie Moist Critical that did reactions. What was it? The funny sausage channel, right? That blew up because Moist Critical brought attention to it. I will be the first to attest that YouTube and its algorithm can be absolutely rough, okay? Like Twitch, not super big, right? I appreciate everyone that comes out to Twitch. Totally get it, though. And sometimes I upload videos that people just don't have interest in React content. That's perfectly fine. Like, from a metric standpoint, if you look at some of the larger videos I've done, which are more comedy focused, right? But you look at other videos I've done where it's just like, oh, well, I mean, cool, you're just fighting in armor, right? Whatever. 4.9K views. Talking about Badger and Red Lobster, right? 831K views. So, I mean, the algorithm works in mysterious ways, and at the end of the day, you have to be making content that people want to watch. I don't ever expect a free buy, right? And it's why actually when I've responded to certain comments, because certain comments have been like, oh man, I would love you to collab with this creator. I'd love you to collab with this VTuber. It's why I explain it that I feel like I haven't really proven myself. And that leads into the second part of their argument is the whole metrics thing. Unless you're over X amount of followers, unless you have X amount of exposure, people don't even look your way, which I mean, in itself is obvious because if you're not at a level where you have that exposure, if you're not at a level where you have those metrics, I mean, how are people supposed to find you? But two, I mean, there's plenty of people, not just in the VTubing sphere, that they'll just try to get with a larger VTuber or a larger creator and then get the clout off that, and then it's just like deuces, right? That I'm not about that. I don't think that's a valid way to do business. However, metrics would prove me wrong in that case. And I feel like I've had to work as hard as I can to get to my 1K videos, 40,000 subscribers. Thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate that. So when I say that, that's not necessarily putting me down. It's it's relaying that I understand my place, right? That at the end of the day, I don't have the metrics that I can really support that, right? I don't have the metrics in which I feel like I've proven myself, where other React content creators, other even VTuber React content creators have proven themselves because they've crossed thresholds that I haven't. Therefore, people look at them and go, okay, you have something that you do, or in any event, you're not a brand risk, right? So just important things that I wanted to kind of point out. And it really comes down to, it feels entitled to complain about that. Right? Like I show up to random streamers and I show up to certain channels that I follow, and I'll send the support that I can, right? Not necessarily monetary in terms of subscription, but I'll show up and I'll be like, hey, have a good stream, or on Twitter, I'll tweet at people that I like, right? Just respond to their tweets, trying to be thoughtful, right? And at the end of the day, it doesn't really get me nowhere. That's ultimately on them if they don't want to, respond to me, that's not an attack. That's not them saying that I'm a piece of garbage. It's not me saying that, you're not worth their time. It is, in a way, saying that, I'm not worth their time, but in a totally reasonable way. Like, I have other things I'm doing, and I'm getting off Twitter, and, maybe they're working, right? I just wanted to kind of address this negative stigma that comes with reaching over a certain amount of views, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. I'm sure creators you've seen, yes, they can struggle in the algorithm, absolutely, but there's others that you see that they kind of punch upwards, and I don't feel it's necessarily warranted. Absolutely, I'd love to get to the point where I could put out a video, get 10K views on anything, right? And I actually have a video in my queue of somebody that sent me their channel, right? Watch their channel trailer, and it's been in the queue for a while that I just need to find a 4 p.m. time slot that I can put up. I think using your platform to kind of look at smaller creators is great, and I think the other thing you can look at is it also builds competition, right? Can you imagine if a VTuber started React content, right? Just another VTuber starts React content, and I watched what they're doing, and I critiqued them, and then they took those critiques to heart, and they're like, okay, this is how I do it better, and then they become, a 200, 300,000 subscriber channel overnight, and then, I'm still at, 40K. People could argue if that's fair, people could argue if that's not fair. At the end of the day, you are building competition, and I think there's a healthy balance between, wanting that competition, wanting to do better, wanting to be able to compete with others, but also to still have a platform to make bills, right? This is to say, it's a very silly argument, and I see it tossed around a lot, specifically in the VTuber community, and I think it's a little bogus. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.